Hello, and welcome to Your Vote Counts, a public service program for the May 19th primary election that is being produced by Capital Community Media, a multimedia center that provides local content, education, and a platform for diverse community voices in the greater Salem area. And also by the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk counties, a nonpartisan political organization advocating for voting rights, government transparency, and public election education. All candidates for the positions of state, Senate, and House districts, Polk County Commissioners, Salem Mayor, and Salem City Councilors were invited, and we will be hearing from one of the candidates for mayor in our interview. Candidates were asked to prepare a 2-minute opening statement about themselves, their qualifications, and why they chose to run for the office, as well as a 2-minute closing statement. I'm Tomika Dew, your moderator from the League of Women Voters, and I'd like to introduce candidate Vanessa Nordyke to share her opening remarks.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you folks for watching at home. My name is Vanessa Nordyke, and I would be honored to have your vote for the office of Mayor of Salem. I was born and raised here in this community, and I started volunteering here at age 13. Over time, I've worked on a wide variety of issues, and that experience matters. Deeper relationships and a better understanding of city government is what you need when you are casting your vote as mayor. I've served on 4 different city boards: the Community Police Review Board, Social Services Advisory Board, the Salem Youth Advisory Commission, and the Budget Committee. And I did all of that before I ran for council in 2019. Now that I'm on council as a senior ranking member, I bring over 6 years of experience. And I've seen 3 different mayors from my perch as the city councilor for Ward 7, Southwest Salem, the neighborhood that raised me. And what I can tell you is that the office of mayor is the most underutilized resource in city government. The mayor should be a champion for the people of Salem, the people who live here, the people who work here, who raise their families here, who retired here, the people who have decided to open their dream business here. The mayor works for you and should be held accountable to you. I will bring ethics, integrity, and experience to this position as we take on Salem's biggest challenges. In my track record, you will see support for things like our livability levy. I was a champion of that levy. I knocked doors for that levy and texted voters. And because of that, and ultimately the voter support, we now have some financial stability to Salem. But over the horizon, we will need to continue to explore ways to find long-term funding. There are so many things that we have to talk about today, and I look forward to sharing that. So let's get started.
Thank you for sharing that information with us. The questions for our candidate today were developed in collaboration with the American Association of University Women and League members. Candidates did not receive the questions ahead of this interview. The candidates' responses to the individual questions will not be timed. Now let's give you an opportunity to get to some of those questions of concern to our community.
All right.
How do we create a vibrant and livable downtown for residents and businesses?
I love that question. Downtown is Salem's living room. This is where everybody can come and congregate for a wide variety of cultural events that happen every single year. Events like World Beat, Pride in the Park, the Ironman competition. So I feel that everyone has a vested interest in downtown success. And I also want to give a shout out to all of our business owners outside of the downtown core. I see you and I see the value in supporting you as well. But let's talk specifically about downtown. So council unanimously voted to create the paid parking fund, and we're already seeing the positive revenue from that, and we are investing that revenue right back into our downtown. More livability, more safety, more security, more cleanup. There's a lot more that we can do to support our downtown. Other things that we've been working on. We voted to create the Homeless Services Team in 2022. This is a team comprised of police officers, which council unanimously agreed to double in size last year, and we are getting results. When you see people on the streets, you see folks who are not currently being served. But what you don't see are the thousands more people who we are serving. The Salem Housing Authority administers housing for over 9,000 residents around the city. We have shelter spaces that we've activated, a navigation center that we've activated. So there are thousands of people who are currently being served who otherwise might end up homeless on our streets, either in the downtown core, Wallace Marine Park, or any other destinations where our unsheltered population tends to congregate. So moving forward, we need to continue to emphasize the solutions that work. And that takes a combination of enforcement and services. We know from our own police chief that we cannot arrest our way out of homelessness. And we know that a lot of our unsheltered population congregate downtown. So what I support and what our entire council has unanimously supported is more investment in the homeless services team, investing in our clean team, that's our garbage cleanup crew, supporting our network of shelters and other affordable housing providers in the area, and also adding our REACH team. The REACH team, which I hope we get to cover in more detail, but that is now plugged into the 911 system. And it consists of medical and mental health professionals who can respond to folks on the streets or anyone else who is struggling with homelessness, mental illness, addiction, or maybe all three at the same time. Ultimately, in order to have a thriving downtown, we need a mayor who both champions effective and data-informed approaches to reducing homelessness, but also someone who actively goes out and attends the events. As a city councilor, I go downtown to the First Friday Art Walk. I go downtown to celebrate our downtown economy, and so can you. All of us can be invested in downtown's future. And we can do that through a lot of smart decisions at council. There are 4 projects that are in the works right now in the downtown core. And again, when there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes, the public doesn't see how hard that the council has been working on these things. But we are oaring in the same direction. And that is something that the mayor should be cheerleading, but also collaborating. We are not, this is not a monarchy, and the mayor is not a queen. The mayor must work in concert with stakeholders and the other members of council, not to mention our city staff and our downtown business core, to figure out the best path forward for downtown. And so those 4 projects, which I'll briefly mention since I raised them, one is already in the works. That's the one that is across the street from the Chariots Transit Mall. Next door to that is that pit. Why do we have a pit in downtown Salem? I know we can do better, folks. I know we can do better. I remember when that was a beautiful bank branch growing up. It was absolutely stunning. I remember that because my father used to work downtown. My stepfather used to work downtown. Heck, my first after-school job was downtown. So to me, when I talk about supporting the attractiveness of our economy in the downtown core, it's personal for me because I used to work in that core myself as a retail employee. The 2 other projects we're working on, the former Saffron Supply building, that will be affordable housing with a little bit of mixed use. And the 4th and final one is the former Boise Cascade property in the South Waterfront. So these are all projects that are in the works, but you have to understand about government. If you want to make change, it's like turning an aircraft carrier. It happens slowly, but as it happens, you can make massive changes. So those changes are coming to downtown. There's only so much a mayor can do in a 2-year term, but I can promise you that I'll do my utmost.
Thank you for that. Could you explain Salem City Tourism Promotion Area fee and how it will be applied?
Absolutely. So the Cultural and Tourism Promotion Fee, this is an important way that we recapture and reinvest. So when folks come and utilize our downtown core or any of our cultural and tourist attractions, not all of them are downtown, of course. Think Deepwood, that's not downtown, for example. Think the Willamette Heritage Center, not downtown. There's a lot of ways in which we can use those funds wisely. The best way to spend public money is to spend it publicly. And what I mean by that is having robust conversation with members of the community. Your budget as a city is the people's budget. So I want to bring more transparency to city government. I want more people feeling like they can get engaged and share their ideas and their input about cultural and tourism practices in our city. This is our city, and I want everyone to be invested in the decisions that we make to help Salem thrive.
Let's turn to water. Discuss Salem's water resources and the status of the Detroit drawdown.
Sure. So years ago, folks may remember we had an algae bloom crisis. This happened before I joined council, so it was many years ago. But that prompted the city to invest in a state-of-the-art water treatment plant. And that water treatment plant depends on a slow sand filtration process, meaning that our water is cleaner and purer than ever. And in fact, we've had algae blooms since that crisis many years ago, but because that water treatment plant, the new one, worked exactly as was intended, we never saw a challenge with our water supply. But there's an Achilles heel to that water treatment system, and the key word is slow. It requires the water and all of the gunk in it to slowly filter through sand and other particulates. That's how the water slowly but surely gets purified so that it is safe to drink. Now, the problem with the Detroit drawdown, which was not a City of Salem idea, this comes from a federal court order, is that a whole bunch of water is going to get pushed into that treatment system all at once. So instead of getting the slow but steady process of water entering our filtering system, it's going to get inundated, and that risks overwhelming it. So one thing I can assure you, our Public Works Department is on top of it. They are working very hard. They update council all the time. They've given updates at neighborhood association meetings. And so that drawdown is scheduled to occur, and it is scheduled to occur in wintertime. And thankfully, wintertime is the best time to do it because we are not using as much water. In the height of summer, people are watering their lawns, they're throwing out the old slip and slide, at least that's what we did when I was a kid. And so water usage really spikes in the summer. So the only silver lining to having this deep drawdown occurred, which is, again, a product of a federal court order and decisions being made by the Army Corps of Engineers far outside my jurisdiction, we as a city have to respond to make sure that our water supply is safe. So our engineers at the water treatment plant at Guerin Island are working every day to ensuring that we are prepared for that drawdown.
Thank you. What are the challenges facing waste and material management, and what is being planned to fix them?
So the plan is still ongoing, frankly. As you all know, I would assume most of your listeners would know, we used to burn our garbage at the City of Salem. Most of it went to Covanta, which was later renamed Reworld. And that's where all of our garbage went if you were a Marion County resident. Now, there were a lot of environmental concerns with having garbage burnt this close to the City of Salem, closer to the Woodburn and Aurora area. And for a variety of reasons, Covanta, which is a corporation with locations in lots of different states, they decided to shut down that burner. And so that created a challenge. Where does our garbage go now? So our garbage is going elsewhere, but it has to be trucked a great distance. And there's a cost, right? We've all seen gas prices. Transportation costs add an overall cost. So I worry about how this will impact people who, pay for garbage in the City of Salem, which means a variety of residents, you and me, I'm sure. So the plan is ongoing, and at this point in time, we don't have a long-term plan defined. So as mayor, what I will do is make sure that our solid waste committee, which is the city's committee to deal with this issue, is on top of it, that updates are brought back early and often. But right now, between Coffin Butte, and the closure of the incinerator, we have challenges for how we're going to handle all of our waste. And so ultimately, the question is that this is all going to be continued.
Thank you for that. I think we have time for one more question. What is the role of the city government in reducing homelessness? We've got about 2 minutes.
Sure. So we've touched on this a little bit. So as someone who's volunteered at 3 different shelters, met with homeless encampments around the city, and talked to homeless service providers, there is an approach. And the mayor needs to develop that clear plan. Everyone should know what the mayor is doing to address homelessness, because that's one of our top issues. So the approach that works most effectively is you have outreach on the streets. Ideally, these are teams of people with lived experience who know what it's like to be homeless. Outreach teams work with unsheltered individuals to transport them to shelters. At the shelter, you have case managers, because the case plan for an 18-year-old male is going to be different than the case plan for a 77-year-old woman who's lost her housing. But once you are stabilized and sober and ready to exit a shelter, you need affordable housing. And that is the skinny part of the funnel. So ultimately, yes, you need mental illness treatment. Yes, you need addiction treatment. But this is a housing problem at the end of the day, because we've always had drugs. We've always had mental illness. But the reason why it is so intense now for places around the nation, it's not just drugs and mental health issues, it's the affordability of housing. We've entered a K-shaped recovery, the rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer, and we're going to see more challenges until we as a community invest in more affordable housing.
Thank you for that. I'd now like to invite candidate Nordyke to share her closing remarks and your public contact information.
Sure, thank you so much. So let me start off with the easy stuff, electvanessanordyke.com. That's how you can learn how to get involved, ask me a question via email, and so on. So let me tell you, I am ready to serve Salem. I am the most experienced candidate to seek this position in quite some time, given the extensive experience I had with all those other city boards that I mentioned before I even joined council. But here's what I will do as your mayor. As your mayor, I will be a voice for the voiceless, because that's what I've been my entire career. I was a lawyer for the state of Oregon. I held child molesters accountable as a lawyer for the Department of Justice. And I now run a nonprofit for foster children. So standing up for others is something that I have been doing for nearly 20 years. Now, in Salem, I'm not here to work for wealthy donors. I'm here to work for the people. I want to be a mayor for all residents of Salem. Y sería ser una alcaldesa para todos los residentes de la ciudad de Salem. So what we need is a mayor who's ready to show up and stand up for all people of Salem. And that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Nordyke, for our interview today and for sharing your thoughts.
All right. Thank you much. Have a great day.
Thanks to Capital Community Media for their production and technology skills, to our community groups that provided questions and topics, and to you, the voter, the public, for watching this program in order to become an informed voter. You have until April 28th to register to vote or to make any changes in your registration. Watch for your ballot in your mailbox beginning on April 29th. Remember to vote, and vote early before May 19th, especially if you're mailing in your ballot. For more local, state, and national voter election information on candidates and ballot measures, visit vote411.org after April 15th, when data will be posted. Elections matter. Remember to vote, because your vote counts.